Hello and welcome to Dance For's A Conversation Place. We're joined today by Leila McMillan, choreographer, and Rev Kate Bottley, and they're going to uncover some things connected to family, because Leila's presenting a work called Family Portrait as part of the NEAT Festival on Sunday the 5th of June at 2 p.m. at the Nottingham Contemporary. So the first thing I'm going to do is hand over to Leila. She'll introduce herself, and Kate will probably do the same, and they'll talk really about what family means for them. So here we go. Here's Leila.
Hi, Kate. How are you?
Hi, Leila.
Well, yeah, as Jim said, I'm Leila McMillan, a choreographer based in the UK, and I also didn't tell you, but I also have a couple cafes in London as well. So there's like two sides to that world. Yeah, and so we're presenting our work on Sunday.
Where are you from
From
originally?
California. I grew up in California.
And have you still got family there?
Yeah, it's my father's still there, but he grew up in Bristol. Yeah, and then my mother grew up in South Africa, but she's in Brighton, so she's in the.
So you're from all over?
Yeah, yeah.
You must have people all over.
Yeah, we do have. Yeah, we do.
You must have a bed in every city that you ever visit. If you ever need it, you must have cousins all over the world.
Between friends and family, yeah.
You never have to pay for a hotel room.
Well, you know, that was the whole plan. Yeah.
Spread your family as far and wide as you can so that you never have to pay for a hotel room. It's quite an extreme way to get out of a hotel bill, but it'll do.
I know, right? Yeah. But then, you know, the flip side of that is that you don't have that, you know, your family's not down the street kind of situation. So there's.
No, I grew up in Sheffield, and I lived sort of the most I lived away from any member of my family was about 20 minutes. So,
oh, wow.
So we all grew up within a very small area in Sheffield, and I was the first one to move away, and I moved 35 miles away.
Okay, well,
it was like I died for my family. It was like well, she's moved away. You know, my mum was distraught, and actually it was just 35 miles away, so it was quite a big deal, really. And yeah, it's just kind of the idea that you would have family on the other side of the world was such an alien concept growing up. But now I've got a cousin who I'm only 18 months older than her. We were sort of raised together to the point of we were dressed alike as children, which is a bit weird.
Oh wow, but yeah, that's good.
He moved to Canada, and it was like she died. You know, even in this day of Skype and conversations like this one, you know, it's a really weird thing to have family spread all over for us in the culture that I'm coming from.
Yeah. Yeah, and then this was completely opposite. So we never knew. You know, we saw our grandparents, you know, every couple years because they were spread between England and in South Africa. So it was a different way to grow up. But we didn't know any different. So
no, of course. And I suppose what you do then is then in the community that you're in, you find yourself honorary grandparents and honorary cousins and honorary brothers and sisters, which is the same in the community that I grew up in. Even though we were really tight knit, I was very confused until about the age of 10, actually, to who my aunts and uncles really were, because everybody was auntie and uncle. You know, everybody, you know, the person that my mum worked with, the guy that, you know, did a joint shift with my dad at the factory, they were my aunties and uncles. And it took me ages to work out that actually they weren't my aunties and uncles. That in fact they were just people that worked with my parents.
Yeah, and I guess that. Hi.
Why are you talking to the little woman that lives in the computer? The little woman that lives in the computer? Yeah. She's a real person and everything. Go and put this
How can you live in this?
He's looking behind the computer.
It's really
to see
flat.
Now.
It's really flat.
Go put the picture on. Go put the picture on.
It's like a pop-up house.
Yeah. So that was my experiences. I didn't actually know, because we lived in big, tight-knit communities. I didn't know who my real family were and who my non-real family were.
Yeah, and I guess in one way it doesn't really matter, does it? Because it's like you're all there to support each other. I mean, of course, there's that difference of who's blood and who's not blood. If you want to think about your, you know, geology and
yeah, and then there's that thing now, isn't there, where where because we're more mobile, because we travel around so much more and we're socially mobile as well, is that actually there's a lot of my friends that I'm closer to now than I ever would be to family.
I've turned the kettle on.
Thank you. Could you go on? Thank you. there's friends that I'm closer to now than I've ever been closer to family. But I guess years ago, when communities weren't that mobile, your family were your friends. So you didn't mix much beyond your own sort of little enclaves, I guess.
Yeah, and I'm sure that still happens in different parts of the world as well.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder what it's like being a friend in a community that's very small, and actually, because and having family in that, because they do say you can choose your family, you can choose your friends, but you can't choose your family.
Yeah.
And when you have those kind of like spectacular fallouts with people that you're actually related to, you don't really have the option to not have any contact with them anymore, because they are your family. So even if you decide never to speak to them ever again, there's no walking away from the fact that they're family. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it totally makes sense. Yeah. Yeah.
I see it sometimes here with families where there's been, because of my job, I see a lot of families passing through in my work. So funeral families, christening families, wedding families, and every family that comes through on their sort of journey into my patch has their own issues, their own divisions, their own moments of clashing.
Yeah.
And what's really funny is they try and hide it from me, because I think they think that I've got like a perfect family because of what I do for a living. So you'll get these funeral families where quite clearly, like, two halves of the family are not speaking to each other and have never spoken to each other and don't have anything to do with each other, and yet they've come together at this funeral and they've got to try and negotiate the next hour or so without actually killing anyone else, without actually causing another funeral. And they sort of navigate it, and you can see them sort of like doing sort of courteous joining and then parting again, and they sort of their paths cross momentarily, and yet they're connected on such a basic human level in that they share the same blood. They're both burying a loved one. So it's very typical with brothers and sisters in funeral families that they haven't spoken to a brother or a sister for years, and the next time they see each other is at their mother's funeral, and they have to try and negotiate the sort of social etiquette of that and appear united when in fact they're completely divided. And what's really funny is the ones that don't tell me that that's the case, and I have to sort of work it out for myself. And me and the funeral director will phone each other up and go, "What's going on in this family?" And he'll go, "Well, she ran away with so and so's husband, and she's doing this and that," and then you know how to negotiate it a bit better.
Oh wow!
And of course with more and more families being blended families as well. When it comes to weddings, quite often the bride will choose someone to walk down the aisle who's not her dad, who's perhaps a stepdad or a mum's new partner, and you just,
I know, and then here's a whole drama that comes with
it. It's awful for me because in our Englishness as well, we don't want to say the wrong thing, and we don't want to go, "Oh, is that your dad?" And they go, "No, it's not my dad." And you go, "Oh no, it's not your dad." And so what you have to do is, I always sit down the bride and groom, and I go, "What is it that you need to tell me about your family?" And they go, and they sort of look all awkward. And I say, "You need to remember, every family's got a story. Every family's got something that is chaotic or divided. Just tell me, including my own. The royal family, for goodness sake. This kind of example of our national family. There's never been a more chaotic family in terms of relationship. So it's negotiating all that can be quite tricky."
But that completely relates to the work that we developed. This whole idea of well, I think we went in well, I can't talk about the rest of the group, but I felt like I went in thinking, okay, family, great. We can be really, it's a simple thing. And then when we got into it, it's like, oh my God, this is so complex.
Yeah. Honestly, it's the most complicated part of my job, navigating the social relationships in those kind of families. And as well, because emotions are heightened at those key times of birth, death, marriage.
Yeah.
Everybody, and especially at weddings, people want it to be so perfect. They want it to be, without hitch or glitch. That trying to make sure that they just let go of that sense of perfection, and that's a completely unobtainable no matter how much money you throw at it, something is going to go wrong at this.
Yeah, of course.
So just accept that and move, you know, celebrate what it is. And at funerals, of course, there's often I'll have journeyed with the family for a little while, because what happens sometimes is families will phone me and say, you know, mum's dying, can you come? And I'll go and visit. And so you see them at those moments of death, and then you see them at the moment of the funeral. And of course, in communities, being the vicar of a community, you see these families come through time and time again. So they'll come to you for the christening, then they'll come to you for the wedding, or the wedding and then the christening. It doesn't matter which way around these days. And then they'll come to you for a funeral. And so you've got the cycle of being there at those kind of thin moments in their lives, and you sort of go in and out with them. I did a funeral for a lady not so long ago, and I buried her on the Thursday. She was dead. I didn't just bury her. I buried her on the Thursday, and then I married her granddaughter on the Saturday. So within 3 days, that family had done a funeral and a wedding, and it was exactly the same people sat there. Yeah. But negotiating their emotions and my emotions, and helping them guide them through that relationship stuff was a fascinating thing to watch.
Yeah, I bet. I mean, just to, you know, through the creation process, which was a little spanner that got thrown in there, is that unfortunately my stepmother passed away from cancer.
I'm sorry.
Oh no, you know, she wasn't very well, so we'd rather her, you know, go rather than stay. But it was like, I think it was maybe 4 or 5 days before we were supposed to start creating the piece. And in one way you think like, oh, okay, there's sometimes a bit of drama that happens, like you're saying, whether it's a family, whether it's in a wedding, but also when sometimes when you're making a piece, there's always some bit of drama that happens that you have to kind of.
Well, you're birthing something, aren't you? I mean, you're creating and birthing something, so it's going to have moments of complete elation and moments of complete tragedy within it, because that's part of the deal when we create anything.
You know, the flip side of it is it made, because we've got blended family, and what came out of it was all these different relationships that we've been kind of just accepting along the years, and kind of you start to dissect it a little bit more, and just like you say, you find ways to get on with each other, and not that we don't have any major problems, everybody is really nice to each other, but it was just like it revealed what that construct was within the blended family.
We have a similar thing with my brother. My mum was quite critical about, well, it was about 10 years ago now. I mean, she came through it, but it was very close to losing her. Me and my brother, I find it difficult to accept that we came from the same womb, really, because we have absolutely nothing. I mean, he's a lovely guy. I really like him, but apart from the fact that we shared a uterus, albeit 4 years apart, I cannot understand how we're from the same. I just can't. It was just totally different. And when my mum was very ill, we really pulled together, and we're texting each other, and looking after each other's kids and doing what we needed to do. But we've drifted again now, except when it comes to my mum's 70th birthday, and then we went out for dinner together and all that. So when we need to, we can do it. But I often think, I wonder what will happen when we no longer have mum and dad with us to tie us to each other.
Yeah.
I wonder if we've got enough that I won't be saying when I'm in my 70s, oh yeah, I've got a brother, but I don't see him.
Well, the whole rebalance happens within the family, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like that.
I think also we worry about that, don't we? I worried that I won't speak very much to my brother once my parents are dead. But actually, that might be okay. We might not need to speak.
Yeah.
It might be enough not to speak.
Yeah.
And that might be a natural thing. Sorry.
No, it's fine. It's just, we can talk. It's like you can talk for hours about this subject because it's so complex. And it was, when we went through it, we didn't want to make a really direct personal story, but obviously it comes from a lot of the content and the structures come from kind of personal inputs into the process. But it's just that it's like always a rebalance and acceptance of each other, and also allowing feud to happen as well, and allowing the distance and the space, and then you've got the harmony, so you've got all these different things that happen within the span of your relationships within your family.
And yeah, and sometimes you're more in step with your family than other times. You know, it sort of drifts in and out, and certainly that's what I see not only in my own family but observing the families that I work with. You know, there are moments where you think, oh, you haven't spoken to this person for years, but you're sat next to them at your mother's funeral, for example. You're able to do that in quite a sort of, but you can sense, especially if I then go into the wake, go into the, you know, the refreshments afterwards, once we've buried someone and we go to the pub or whatever, you can sense that they're just starting to get tired of each other's company, and they've been together for a little bit too long, and they need to go their separate ways again, you know. And there's this element of knowing that actually they're done. Thanks, Lord.
Yeah. Yeah, certain family relationships definitely have time limits to them. but then,
yeah, some members of the family don't know what that time limit is, do they?
Yeah.
I've got members of my own family who have no judgment on the time limit of what's appropriate to spend with each other.
But then that's equally nice that there's not that, you know, there's kind of like an open border in a way that you just, you don't think about it, do you? You just, you're there. Yeah. Yeah. But no, it sounds, I think it's really, it's fascinating how you get to see these families through all these different kind of big moments in their life, which are, you know, celebrations in many different ways, whether it's about
absolutely.
the
and
marriage,
I mean, there's one family that I've worked with recently that they lost a child quite young in an accident, and so I helped them say goodbye to that child, and to watch a mum carrying in a coffin very small into church. And then what happened was she got pregnant quite quickly after that, and asked me to be the birth partner at the birth of her next child. So there was this sense of, and she said to me, you know, you helped me say goodbye to one of my babies, I'd like you to help me to say hello to one. And the parallels between being with someone at the death of a child and being with someone at the birth of a child were quite startling, and not something I'd thought through. But that sense of pain associated, physical and emotional and spiritual pain associated with both death and birth, that sense of no control over it, just no, you've got no say in this, you know, it just happens. You know, when someone dies, when someone is born, it, you know, they can't tell you when it's going to happen. They cannot predict it. It happens quite organically. It happens quite naturally. And it made me think a lot about family and the way that we hold those that we love in various moments. So to see her hold her newborn as I'd watched her hold her dead child was just a phenomenal bookend of emotions, really.
Wow. Wow, what a special thing to be a part of, huh?
Amazing, eh? And that's just from being a victor. What a great job I've got. I'm taking next to chocolate factory.
Oh. Well, thanks for the chat.
You're so welcome.
So, wow, I feel like we've only just scratched the surface about family, but it was really fascinating. Thanks both for contributing so freely to that. And yeah, great. Well, maybe we'll catch up again and talk about family in another context. But yeah, thank you very much for taking part. Yeah, see you again soon.
Thank you. Bye.